All right, so another questions or problems or issues that people face is, how do I stop thinking and worrying about food all the time? Yes, I follow my diet. Yes, I look pretty good, but I can't stop thinking about food and worrying about food and my diet all the time. This is what I call the North American diet mentality, that tells you that food is something that you should be obsessing about all the time, counting calories, measuring macros, and then judging yourself according to how well you're doing that. That's not healthy, and that's never going to work. So if you are someone who's thinking and worrying about food all the time, that's not a self-serving, self-nurturing mindset. So many people write me, and they know they need to stop worrying about thinking about food all the time and obsessing about it all the time, because that comes with a whole emotional pounding that goes along with worrying and thinking about food all the time. It's emotionally exhausting. I want to talk to you about 3 shifts in perspective that'll help you do this, all right, to stop worrying and obsessing about food. Now, these shifts are only starting points, and they're only wide nets to cast, but they're important ones, and they'll get you thinking. Maybe you need help with this, okay? So shift 1, something I say all the time. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. So you have to accept that external food issues are a problem of mindset and perspective, okay? There's nothing inherent about food itself that has a hold on you. You have to accept that the hold that food has on you doesn't actually come from the food. It comes from within, and it comes from how you're perceiving the whole situation. And usually that's from buying into what I call the North American diet mentality. For example, food itself is not good or bad. Food choices are not right or wrong. Seeing food choices as right or wrong, or good or bad, okay, are actually reflections of how you feel about yourself. And by doing that, seeing food as only good or bad, right or wrong, it invites a whole self-judgment and self-measuring component into it, as seeing yourself as good or bad, or as a success or failure. And that puts immense amounts of personal emotional pressure on yourself to always be in performance mode. And the mind eventually resists that. The mind wants a break from being constantly self-measured and self-judged. So this mindset of absolutes doesn't suit you well if you're someone who struggles with food issues, or you want to be free of diet obsession and perfectionism, okay? There's a difference between the mindset of excellence and the mindset of perfectionism. So remember, you have choices, but having choices doesn't mean you have control. The idea is to do the mental work so that you have both. You have control, and you tell yourself that the choices are yours. When you stop seeing food, all right, or food choices as good or bad, right and wrong, only then can you stop the guilt and shame cycles that go with that, and like I said, that whole emotional pressure that mounts when you see food as only good or bad, right or wrong, and things like that. Remember, food cravings are biological. Hunger is physiological. These things are physiological and neurological in nature. Giving into them isn't a matter that should be assessed with guilt and shame. That makes no sense. You got to see it more rationally. It's simply a part of the biology of weight control to know hunger, to know appetite, to know a sense of satiation and wellness, all these things around food. And the more you understand the biology of weight control, the easier this is to see, and you stop obsessing about things, and food becomes just food again. Diet becomes just a lifestyle pattern, and that's one of the shifts you need to make. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Shift number 2, food issues or worrying about food is not something to battle or something to overcome. It's something to let go of. We have to get rid of that fight mentality. Remember the phrase, what you resist persists, and what you focus on expands, okay? So the more you struggle, the more you nurture struggle itself, and that makes no sense. You can't get rid of something by constantly obsessing about that same thing. You don't get rid of it that way. You get rid of it by actually getting rid of it. So the corollary to this point is that sometimes it's hard to let go of a food issue. Some people embrace the struggle, and it becomes part of your identity. In other words, if you're not struggling with something, you don't know what to do with yourself. And that's a very negative, non-self-nurturing perspective to have, and perception and mindset to be part of. You don't want struggle to be part of your identity. So surrendering that sometimes can be challenging. And it's a short-term fix to be in that struggle mode. In the end, it's really disempowering to think that food and diet is something that you battle against all the time. That is mentally and emotionally exhausting. If this is you, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to learn that letting go of the struggle is where the solution lies, not to battle it until you overcome it and all these other, quaint North American phrases. This is one reason why with clients I've often focused so much on Eastern philosophy mindsets. Toward working problems and finding solutions to problems. These Eastern methods teach you how to let go of things rather than that energy of resistance that you're constantly in some kind of battle mode to overcome issues, and that's very exhausting to you. So the Eastern mindsets are more about working the solutions rather than obsessing on the problems. And that's another shift you need to make. And the third shift we can talk about is that your body isn't something that you work on. Your body is meant to be something that you work with. Okay? And this means paying attention to your body's messages. It means that your body's not something that should be constantly measured and judged and held accountable. It has to be supported and nurtured. You have to support and nurture your body. And there's a big difference between measuring and judging and supporting and nurturing. And hopefully you can see that difference if you get what I'm saying. You don't need to compare your body to others either. If you really want to get rid of these issues, then you need to remove yourself from the compare, contrast, and compete game that the vanity industries want you to play. That's how they make money. And that's how they profit in the billions of dollars every year. So this can mean putting away the weight scale. If you're someone who struggles with body image issues or food or eating issues, the weight scale isn't your friend. You can take a hammer to your weight scale and abuse it the way it's been abusing you. If the scale's causing you emotional turmoil and the scale isn't just a number to you, it's more than that, it tells you how to feel about yourself, then you need to get rid of the weight scale, because it's no longer a useful tool for you. It's something you use to judge yourself against, and that's no good. If you've competed before, now this is maybe a smaller segment of the people listening to this, but if you've competed before and now you suffer food and eating issues, then it means not doing another contest to try to get control over your food issues. That's ridiculous. Competing is the last thing you need if you have problems not thinking and obsessing about food and diet issues, because that only legitimizes thinking, obsessing, and worrying about food and diet issues. So it's a lie you tell yourself that competing is going to set all that right again, because it's not. Working with your body also means paying attention, learning to pay attention to your hunger and biofeedback signals. That's something my coaching emphasizes all the time. It means learning to listen to what your body's telling you, and then working with your body, not against it. Again, getting out of that battle mode, all right? And it means stopping dictating to your body from the outside in with calories and macros and the rest of it, and learning to nurture your body from the inside out. And that can be a tremendous shift in perspective from what you're used to, especially if you have that North American diet mentality. So this also means, in general, what am I getting at? Well, mindset, perception, and perspective. No one can hate your way to thinness. You can't hate your way to wellness, okay? No one ever self-hated their way to a worthy accomplishment. And I can't say that enough. I've said it a million times in my books and my Facebook posts. No one ever self-hated their way to a worthy accomplishment. Things like hunger, cravings, these things can, metabolic distortions we can call them sometimes, because you lose perspective. Some of you have experienced that. All these things is your body doing its best to try to protect you, okay? And then it's you that actually distorts these things into what they mean. But you have to get back to treating your body with a self-nurturing mindset and a respect for your body and all it does for you. Remember, it's about learning and embracing that your body is meant to be your lifelong partner, not your lifelong project. And that's another one of my ableisms that I've said a million times. Learn that your body is meant to be your lifelong partner, not your lifelong project. And I promise you, when you treat your body with self-nurturing, other things like diet and your cosmetic goals, they just seem to fall into place. You're no longer in a struggle and battle mode to get what you want. These things just fall into place and you act naturally. When you're in a self-nurturing mode, you just act naturally and you let go of the struggle, and then things just feel right. Nurturing and respecting your body, that doesn't mean liking being 100 pounds overweight. And that doesn't mean staying 100 pounds overweight. I'm not saying that, All this love your body in spite of it, that doesn't make sense, okay? So it doesn't mean you have to like where you are at, but it does mean working with your body and not mentally hating on your body or hating on yourself to force your body toward a place that's healthy and sustainable for you. It's going to take a healthy and sustainable mindset to garner a healthy and sustainable result. And that only makes common sense if you think about it. Again, no one self-hates their way to a worthy accomplishment. So, self-nurturing is the shift that you have to make. So to recap, shift 1, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Shift 2, food issues are not something to battle. There's something to let go of. And that's where Eastern philosophy makes more sense. Shift 3, your body is not something to work on, it's something that you should be working with. So remember, the vanity industries, the diet industry, the fitness industry, the fashion industry, the cosmetics industry, all these things thrive, and they actually work together by getting you to play the compare, contrast, and compete game against other people and see how you measure up or don't measure up. When you remove yourself and extricate yourself from that mindset of compare, contrast, and compete, then these industries can no longer control you, and you start to direct your own thoughts about your own personal wellness. Self-directed thought about your own personal wellness. The compare, contrast, and compete game hurts you. It doesn't help you, ever. We might call this a fourth shift in perspective, which is that the vanity industries are not really on your side. They will tell you about reaching your goals, feeling better about yourself, but really, it's really about telling you that you're never good enough the way you are, and that keeps you buying their products. So these are the few of the crucial mindset shifts for dealing with food and diet issues. Of course, there's more to it than that, but these are some 3 direct and 1 indirect fundamental shifts that are required in order to get away from thinking that food and diet is something you have to obsess over for the rest of your life. So hopefully that helps give you something at least to start thinking about and start working toward, rather than that endless obsession of the problem. We can work toward the solution, feel better and be better by letting go of things that burden you, not by fighting with the things that burden you.